from his own music unit Capsule to the likes of Perfume and Kyari Pamu Pamu, a world-renowned music genius whose talent knows no bounds. But what's his secret? Let's try to find out. It's time to talk about Nakata Yasutaka. While spending my university years studying Japanese and dreaming of one day living in the land of maid cafes, like many, I spent a long time appreciating Japanese culture from afar through platforms like YouTube. And one of the discoveries I made in the early 2010s on YouTube was the group Perfume. With killer songs like Chocolate Disco and Dream Fighter, I was instantly hooked to their sound, but I would later find out that electronica sound was actually down to one man, Nakata Yasutaka, who is actually one of the most well-known music producers both in and out of Japan. Born and raised in the city of Kanazawa, located in the prefecture of Ishikawa, Yasutaka's interest in music, including producing music, actually started from a very young age, mainly thanks to his parents. They made him start taking piano lessons from when he was small, whether he wanted to or not. Parents in Japan making their kids take piano lessons is fairly common. However, luckily Yasutaka would really take to it. But he also wasn't too fond of playing other people's songs. Looking to create his own music, he would start composing piano songs from around the time he was in elementary school. When he was in middle school, after writing his piece, he would then start recording his songs to cassette tapes. It's this process of recording songs that Yasutaka would end up finding enjoyable, showing pretty early on that he was someone naturally geared to have a career in music. His parents were, in his words, geeks when it came to technology, meaning they also had some audio equipment lying around here and there in the house which he would use. Liking to experiment with sound, he would soon find out about different sound recording methods like ping pong recording, which apparently involves combining multiple track stems into one. But soon after, he would discover a device that would lead him closer to the kind of music he would be known for, a synthesizer. Similar to a keyboard in some respects, but allows one to have full control, being able to manipulate the sounds in the way you want. In very simple terms, Yasutaka basically became a sort of music otaku, being completely obsessed with just making songs. It wasn't even something that he was necessarily putting a ton of work into. In fact, he says it usually takes him around 3 hours to produce something, because once he gets started, he doesn't usually stop until the track is complete, usually doing the composition, arranging and recording all at the same time. This style of making music is something he still does, although apparently within the music world, it's pretty uncommon. Interestingly, Yasutaka's high school didn't have any after-school clubs, something that's quite rare in Japan, so after school was finished, he would just return home and start making music. When Yasutaka was 16, he once participated in a contest set up by the Yamaha Corporation. His goal? To win the cash prize so that he can buy a sampler. I'm sure those things aren't cheap. He put quite a bit of work into the piece he sent in and amazingly won the Technique prize. But instead of getting money, Yasutaka was awarded with a Yamaha instrument. I'm guessing it wasn't a sampler. Now, up until that point, Yasutaka wasn't really making music for anyone other than himself. He didn't even consider having others listen to it. He had never even been to any music clubs. But that would change thanks to someone known as Takemori-san. Takemori-san works at a music shop that Yasutaka would often frequent during his high school years, where he would spend hours playing around with different music devices. After finding out he makes music, Takemori-san suggested to Yasutaka that he should get people to listen to his work. Perhaps related to this, Yasutaka would start getting into DJing during his high school years and actively going to record shops to get them to listen to his music. He was also asked by a friend of his who worked in the beauty industry to make music for their fashion shows. This is what Yasutaka generally thinks as being the starting point of his career as a musician. However, the big change was when Takemori-san realized just how good the quality of his songs were, because she would eventually introduce him to someone that would change his life forever. She would introduce him to Koshijima Toshiko. Koshijima Toshiko, whose nickname is Koshiko, is also from Kanazawa, and around the time she was introduced to Yasutaka was also still in high school. Apparently she was attending a vocal school. Not too long after meeting each other, it was decided that the two of them would form a music unit that would be called Capsule. This was 1997. Yasutaka would produce songs that would make full use of Koshiko's vocals. There was no YouTube yet back in those days, so to market Capsule, he would make demo tapes and leave them in music shops so that people could listen to their songs. Pretty cool. Capsule's music has been called a few things over the years: electronica, synth pop, EDM, etc., but I personally like Shibuya Kei, aka Shibuya style. After Yasutaka graduated high school, he made the bold move of moving to Tokyo, where all the action was. A few years later, after their forming, Capsule would make their major debut. There isn't a lot of information here about how this transpired, but the label they were under was Yamaha Music Communications. Seeing how Yasutaka participated in that contest set up by the Yamaha Corporation when he was 16, it was most likely through some connection he made there. What's interesting though is that Yasutaka didn't exactly aspire to be a musician. Making music was just something he really enjoyed, and somehow it ended up becoming his job. I can't say there are many that have had that experience. Like I mentioned earlier, Yasutaka pretty much does everything by himself. Not only that, he does everything within his own studio. Nope, no professional studio here. He also incorporates the singer's vocals in from the very start of the process, whereas typically the singer would come in later after the track has been completed. This unorthodox style of producing music is most likely the key to Yasutaka's sound. When Capsule debuted, he did apparently try things the professional way at first, but it just didn't feel right to him, which is why he asked the record company to let him do things his way. Yasutaka says that if a track doesn't do well, it would be okay because he put out something he was proud of and wouldn't be able to blame anyone else for its lack of success. Even though the sound quality of his songs might not be quote-unquote professional grade, they have that fun vibe that anyone can enjoy. But that very same style would connect to other projects too, something I'll get into in just a bit. Capsule's first major single would be Sakura, released in March of 2001. This would be a track of their first album, Haikara Garu, that would come out in November of that same year. Interestingly, Sakura would also be used within the morning news TV program called Expressu. In fact, their next single, Hanabi, would also be used within that same program. Maybe it's because of how versatile and accessible Capsule's music was, but you could find a lot of their songs being used all over the place. So personally speaking, some of my favorite Capsule tracks include Starry Sky, Sugarless Girl, and of course, Jumper. Now, Yasutaka's way of producing music seemed to set a lot of eyes on him, and his success with Capsule got him a number of different offers for different music-related projects. One that he took on was doing the soundtrack for a horror suspense movie called Utsusu, which was released in 2002. But it would be his next project that would help not only spread his name in Japan, but most likely overseas too. In 2003, he would become the music producer for Perfume. At the time, Perfume's members were around 15 to 16 years old, and were all from the same talent academy called Actors School Hiroshima, within which they created the group. Actors School Hiroshima has a close relationship with the Japanese entertainment company called Amuse Inc. And to keep a long story short, Perfume would become a part of Beehive, which was a training program set up by Amuse Inc. Through an idea brought up by one of Amuse Inc.'s new employees, Perfume would go down the techno-pop route, and as a part of that, they wanted to make Yasutaka their music producer. A good choice indeed. Of course, the other artist whose sound is attributed to Yasutaka is Caddy Pamu Pamu, something that would happen a number of years later after Perfume in 2011. The story goes that Yasutaka was invited by Caddy's agency's CEO to be a DJ for an event where the two would meet. Apparently, Caddy wasn't a singer yet at that time, still doing her modeling work, but would soon go down that route with Yasutaka as her music producer. Yasutaka has honestly done so many different music projects it would be impossible to fit everything in, but if there is one other thing I want to mention is that he was also behind Ado's song Shinjidai, the main theme song to One Piece Film Red. I also have a video on Ado if you're interested. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video guys. This was a request, but like I mentioned in the beginning, I have been listening to Capsule and Perfume for a number of years now, so of course I'm very familiar with Yasutaka's work. It was a real pleasure to make this video and to get to know more about him. I know some people think he comes off as arrogant, but honestly I don't get that vibe from him at all. I think he's pretty down to earth and just a chill guy who knows his craft very well. But let me know your thoughts, and as always, if you have any recommendations for future videos, then please let me know. Anyway, thank you again guys, take care, peace, bye.